So recently, I've been kind of on a Garth Ennis kick. Now, I love Garth Ennis. I love his Punisher run. I love most of his war stories, and I love it. And pretty much everything he's done, I have pretty much loved. I even liked his Judge Dredd one with the Irish Rebellion. That was one of my favorite Dredd stories. But with Boys, I kind of given up on Garth Ennis. Because it wasn't any good. I mean, it was strong. It was the usual Ennis shock and violence and taking the tropes and turning them upside down. But it seemed he had gone too far with the sex and the violence. And the story it didn't have that Garth Ennis oomph that I had come to know. I mean, The Preacher, one of his seminal works, if not his greatest work, was always known for its weirdness, but it had a ton of that crazy, raunchy sex and the John Wayne-like figures and all this. But for some reason, it just didn't encapsulate the Ennis I loved. And I had figured maybe he was running low on stories again. Because artists, every once in a while, they lose their mojo. And, and I know a lot of people will say Boys is a seminal work. But it drew my interest away from it. So I quit reading him. And then I came across Dastardly and Muttley from, of all places, the Hanna-Barbera universe. Now, I know you're like going, is that Dastardly and Muttley written by Garth Ennis? And I'm like, and is it set in the Hanna? Yes. And is it as crazy and absurd as you think it is? Yeah, it's Garth Ennis being Garth Ennis. Because here's the thing about Garth Ennis that you don't get. The man, when he's got no cares and he's just going to have a fun story, he can pull out all the crazy wild stops. And it's got kind of a war theme with them being that they're pilots. But it just builds on this chaos as this universe comes alive in front of you. Just the imaginatives. To Jabba Walker appears in this, and it just makes sense. I mean, you got a talking dog here with a guy with a hole in his frigging head. Where's the show the scene with the guy right here? This guy's got a hole in his head with a question mark. It was Garth Ennis that back at his finest. It was like the man just decided to give it all on a rather throwaway book, in my opinion. Because, do I have much faith in the Hanna-Barbera universe? This universe? No, not really. Is it written for my generation? No. But he gave it all, and it's just a crazy Garth Ennis story. Is it as good and violent as The Punisher or his war stories? No, it's more like The Preacher and his goofiness. Not as thought-provoking, maybe, as The Preacher was, but more the goofy fun that we all love in Ennis. So I gotta say, he's back to his form. And so I was like, I've got to start reading my Ennis again. So this book brought me back to Ennis. Is it going to be a worth a read? It's okay. Is it one of his better works? Hitman is better. Preacher is better. All his Punisher work is better. All his war stuff is better. You should read his war stuff. He definitely captures the old Action Comics well. And I'm not talking Action Comics with Superman in it. I'm talking the old action, the old British war comics that most of you probably never read, but I did. And so did Garth Ennis. So, if you want a quick read, that's fun. Garth at his craziest. Garth just being creative and just saying, you know what, I'm going to let it all out. Read this. It's like tripping acid without having to trip acid. And that's the graphic novel ladies review. I'd say, buy it, but not a must read.